Okay, so here's your file, and I did a video yesterday that showed cleaning some up, but I think there's another issue that's causing your problems, and it's got to be just kind of a guess. But anyway, let's go in and look at this because I worked on this for a long time, and I was working on getting it to load into Mach 3. So let's go ahead and just select this and engrave it. Compute toolpath. Let me get my post up so I can load it. And then we can post and save as. Let's call it 1. And then now let's load it into Mach 3 and see what's happening. And what we're getting are these arcs that are 0, 0, and Mach 3 isn't going to like that. So at first, I started to go and do all the cleanup, which was, this stuff is what I showed in the video yesterday. And basically, the model is kind of riddled with all those, like, I talked about chain selecting. Like if I go that way, it gets all of them, but if I go this way, then it breaks, And we can start finding them little things all over the place. So I spent a long time cleaning up. Probably ran around and did a bunch of them on this, and you'll find we'll find them all over the place, little fragments all over. So if I wanted to clean this up, the best thing I could do would be create a new layer and slowly start going through these until you can chain select your items. So right now, I showed you how to do that. One goes all the way that way, but this way it still stops. So where's the break and where's the issue? I would find it, but for the purposes of this, I'm going to just go through and chain select. But I'm also noting that when I do this, I'm chain selecting several of those little entities, right? So now if I hit Control X, which cuts that, then if I go into here and I just window select the blank area and I do an entity summary, I've got 5 little fragments in there. And so I can delete them, boom, and then I put this back. And so then though, if I toolpath that, I spent a long time cleaning up all the little fragments I could find, even though, I told you that there's more in here somewhere. I don't know if I'm going to find one real quick to be able to illustrate that they're still there. Like there's one right there, right? So I would have to delete that. That's not doing my engrave any favors when I select that as geometry. But I'm still getting that error. And I think what the issue is during the vectorization, what's happening is, remember in this area over here yesterday, what we talked about was I pointed out how there's this tiny little entity was right there. It looks like I didn't get it in the chain selection, but it's 0.0001 in length is what it was. And but I don't think what I think happened in the vectorization, you did it with arcs. I think what's happening is there's these the thing is full of these tiny little entities, but it's not a line. It's defined as an arc. And what's happening in the posting is an arc of 0.0001 is getting posted out with that start and end point in the same with the tolerances we have selected. And so basically trying to figure out which one of these, where in here is how many tiny little segments that are defined as arcs that are causing that Mach 3 error you see. The best thing I would do on this model if I had to work with this is explode it to lines, and then it will engrave and do fine. The other thing is you were talking about your scroll having problems, and all of your scrolls have this little thing in it too. So I would fix that with 00125, and I would just put a little fillet on that and then get rid of the fragment. Each one of the scrolls has that little thing in it. There'll be one down here, as well as you'd have to go through and find those tiny little segments there. The other thing, when I was toolpathing this, I was noticing a cut that shouldn't be, but see, those things are all over. So there's a little fragment, looks like part of one of your scrolls that didn't get selected when you did it. So basically I would start with getting all of these where I could chain select the whole thing like that. Then I would move it to its own layer. And after I could chain select everything, move it to a layer, then I would window select this, and I would blank them. I would window select this whole thing, and there's going to be like 90, 100 something of those little pieces all around that you can get rid of. They're just all floating, and guarantee your engrave is going and doing little dots all over the place. So once you do that as a basic cleanup, then I would explode it, and I would explode it to lines and do a window select and explode it all. And then now there's no more, any of those tiny little super fragments that were defined as arcs are lines. And it's going to not create that that arc 0 point error that you see in Mach 3. So there's a toolpath that let's post and save it. Let's do it as 1 again. Yes. And then now I'll load that into my Mach 3. And it goes all the way through without error. You can't see it on my Mach 3 screen, doesn't fit on the resized desktop, but it's over here and it's ready to run, no errors. So, but if you don't want to run, basically what we did though was we made any kind of arcs in here, we made them tiny, tiny little line segments, and that's what you'll be cutting. So basically though, you can do a lot of, it would be a lot of work to clean up all those little fragment things and all those setups. Really though, in your vectorization, you can do yourself a favor. First off, and you should be able to try and learn to look for fonts and just type this, because really you're vectorizing this stuff. I mean, look at really what you're getting. It's that's what you're engraving versus just typing the font in Bobcat. Same thing with all of these. It's just all these tiny in here. If you're running ArcFit or something, there could be little doubles. You're going to find tiny little segments, tiny little arcs that are just going to create those problems for you. So either do that, finding the font to be able to get to just type it yourself, and then maybe this would be easy to create with just a box and some filleted corners and a circle, and just quick trim it and then fillet the corners, and you'd have perfect geometry versus all of that. And so anyway, that makes your file work. That's some insight to be able to do it better in the future. And then also what I just wanted to talk was the vectorization. You could help yourself out by not creating those so many bazillion tiny little segments. And so what I'm going to do is let's load up an image. I just went to the internet and I downloaded a scroll, and I purposely found a pretty crappy, there's a neat scroll, and I'm going to want to vectorize it, and it's really not a very good image. Of course, it would be way better to work with a super high quality image. So there's just the scroll I got from the internet. Let's vectorize it. Excuse me. I'm going to go over here with 1 pixel accuracy, and let's go with 1.5 with arcs, 1,000 pixel chain, and then let's look at what I'm getting. And so not a lot of tiny, tiny little segments. And okay, so maybe that's not my accuracy I want, and I'm still going into these areas. But what really, you see how it doesn't, the transitions aren't giving you smooth and continuing on. So really what you want to do though is you want to blur your image also. I think I talked about that in another video. So here I'm going to take that same image, and I did a 1 pixel blur on it. And now I'm going to bring that in. And now I'm going to vectorize that. And let's go with a 1.5 and a 1000 pixel range. And you'll see that all those transitions are going to be much nicer and less geometry. It really had something more to read. So now, I don't know if you can go back between the two vectorizations I just did. I didn't want to try and save both of them and go back and forth, but it's much nicer. So now I can go in and edit it and start looking for my details. So I can drop this down to 1 pixel, and I'm still got pretty nice geometry without breaking it up into too many bazillion little segments. If I would take this and put it down to 0.05, for instance, it starts reading all the, see what I mean? And now I'm trying to straighten all that out and fix it. So I'm going to leave at 1. It basically produces a pretty good outline of the stuff, right? And without making too many million little segments. But I'm not getting all my detail in here, and I get that with the chain select. The 1000 pixels is what's eliminated that. So I could take that down to 500 now. And you see I've got all of these still with the not too many. There's a few of those little segments, and those are what I'll clean up after. I want to get more of those. So let's go down to 100, and I want to start slowly dropping this number down to where I get the detail that I want without starting to try and drop into every tiny little nook and cranny that is there. So I'm down to 50 now, and I pretty much got the most thing. I'm going to have a hard time with such a horrible image trying to do this in here. I might just create that with some line segment myself, and these could just be circles. If you really need to get that kind of geometry, just you would go in and touch that. You're not really going to get too much better than that out of your vectorizing a really horrible logo like that. And then and now when I have that, then I would go to this in the first place, and I know that some of this really segmented stuff needs to be fixed up, like that with those hard edges, and some of these things can just be really fixed up much better. And so I could really do myself a favor by starting to use the blend tool on some of these and seeing what kind of fix I can get on all these. So I could go there to there, and I could say, so there's a nice, a smoother curve without those two little hard edges. And I can even get rid of that line now and see what a blend does from here to here. Yeah, that's not very good, so I wouldn't do that. Basically what I would have to do is break this back more, so that, because what you're looking at with your blend tool is this point is starting to come down below where that tangent it can be pointing. So I could put an entity on right here and break it, and then that would just be it would be more of a smooth blend. And then just spend the hour fixing this up before I go over to the toolpathing, and really go from there. You could run arc fit, but you really need to be careful on starting to put too small of a value. Like if I run arc fit on that whole thing at 0.0001, it changes everything it can change into an arc and blends together at that value. And I could possibly even, let's just do a quick engrave on that and see if that's created any little line segments that would be basically ill-defined for Mach 3. So real quick, I know I'm dragging this out, but I tend to do that. Oh. There's my post, and then, wait, did I? Yeah, okay, so it was just hidden by that. So let's bring in Mach 3. Let's load the G code from the second file I just did, and it goes all the way through and it's ready to go. No erroring out. So excuse me. What would cause that to error could be, let's see if I'm going to just try and do it here, which is running an arc fit at a smaller value, which is going to start creating fragments, those little fragments that we were talking about. That's what happens when you have, if you're running the arc fit and you have these tiny little arcs that are together, you can just start creating. I don't know if I'm going to find any. I'm just taking a shot in the dark here. But I wanted to try and find those and see if I could illustrate how that stuff was being created with that. Well, didn't even create any there. Looks like that might have worked, but basically the file you has there's just way too many little fragments all over and little errors. Maybe there are fragments left over from, you were doing some previous ops and it didn't all get deleted properly. But the best thing you could do on those vectorizations is make sure you get a better initial result out of your vectorization that's close enough to what you want, and then just lose the look you want there, and then recreate it by fixing your geometry. Don't try to get the look you want right out of the vectorization and then try to clean up 10,000 little entities that just aren't going to look right anyway, too speckly and jaggedy, you understand? So I could take this and spend 40 minutes deleting this segment here and this segment here and possibly that one there, and making a blend between those two look really nice. Much better. You see what I mean? So I just cleaned up that whole thing to be super smooth by just deleting those couple, and I could, about 20 minutes on this one, 10 minutes on this one, and this down here maybe about 30 minutes just going through and cleaning up the segments and finding out where I can get a good blend between this corner and what corner. And then I would have much better and cleaner geometry, and it's going to toolpath better anyway. Enough rambling. Talk later. Bye.